Sure, it's a little old, but after perusing my old game collection, I saw Radiata Stories and I couldn't help myself but to play it. You know, it's a real shame that this game didn't do better commercially because it's easily one of my favorite games for the PS2 generation. The game features a unique art style, fantastic writing, stellar voice acting, and some of the best tunes the PS2 can muster. You play as the young knight-in-training Jack Russell on his quest to get out of the incredibly long shadow cast by his hero father. You'll spend your time fighting in real-time battles, recruiting NPCs to join your party, and solving the mystery of the conflict between the humans and non-human inhabitants of the world. The game features your standard fantasy fare of elves, dwarves, goblins, and orcs. And with any game featuring elves these days, there has to be the steadfast conflict of racism. That cliche story beat aside, the story of Radiata Stories is actually one of the high points of the game, and should be greatly enjoyed by anyone willing to give it a chance. So while I do have to say that the game does take a fair amount of time to gain some traction, the top speed is something that shouldn't be missed by RPG fans. There are a few gripes with the story though, with the slow start aside. There is a split later in the game that will cause you to choose between two things that are very important to Jack. One of these choices results in a fantastically written conflict and conclusion, while the other falls somewhat flat and lacking in any real punch. That being said, it's a great idea to play through this section of the game twice just to see how the conflict plays out from both sides. Either way, you'll always be in the shoes of Jack, and those are some pretty awesome shoes to be in. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly what makes Jack such a likable character. He's really not a badass, or not even particularly that interesting, but he has a never-say-die attitude and a level of enthusiasm that is very seldom seen in games these days. Anyone who's ever played as Jack for a few hours can attest that he is, please forgive the use of the phrase, an extremely lovable rapscallion. Accompanying the narrative is a fantastic soundtrack that is instantly recognizable as having a tone and flair that is exclusive to Radiata Stories. The tracks are upbeat and never wear out their welcome. The music certainly adds a sense of character to the game itself, and that leads to my next odd topic of discussion about Radiata Stories. The game itself is something of a character as well. It reacts in ways that you'd expect a Saturday morning cartoon to react. For instance, if someone were to say or do something silly, the camera will sort of pause and then zoom in quickly to the character, and you expect the game to have a wah 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 audio effect. The game is chock full of great character, and the overall experience is definitely better for it. Now, the actual gameplay of Radiata Stories may not win any awards, but it's definitely serviceable and enjoyable. While there are tactical aspects to the combat, the majority of your time will be spent spamming the attack button. That complaint aside, the combat is still a lot of fun when you're trying to put together the perfect team of defense, attack, and magic. Acquiring these various party members is highly enjoyable as well, as the game features a multitude of characters to recruit. To add a character to your friend list and therefore your party, you must convince them to join you. This can be something as simple as talking to them enough times, or something as complex as going on a series of mini-quests to find the rare items that they want. Now, one gameplay design complaint I simply have to bring up is the way the buttons are mapped out. Radiata Stories would have greatly benefited from a customizable control scheme for both the overworld and the combat. For instance, when you're running around town trying to help out the various denizens, the confirm and talk functions are on different buttons. While this may not sound like a big deal at all, the confirm button is also the button you'll use to kick the crap out of something. So if you get the button slightly confused, you could be meaning to talk to a high-level character, while instead you'll just kick the crap out of their shins, resulting in a fight you are more than likely going to lose. And while I'm on the belly-aching complaint train, I might as well bring up the Overworld section of the game and how it's a very poor attempt to convey a large and open world. In actuality, it's just a series of paths that the player must go down, choose left or right, and then keep going. Now granted, I am judging the game by 2013 standards, and the ability to create a large, sprawling world back in 2005 was a much more difficult feat. All in all, Radiata Stories is a fantastic RPG that oozes personality and charm. The characters are well written and far from cliche, resulting in a believable world that anyone can enjoy. One of the best ways I have to describe Radiata Stories is if Square circa 1999 had made a Suikoden game. This would be that game. There are honestly too many nice things to say about the game to leave it to one paltry video review. Please take a moment and find the game and give it a try. If you've ever enjoyed a good RPG game with fantastic story, fun characters, and timeless visuals, you'll be happy you gave Radiata Stories a try. Radiata Stories gets a 5 out of 5.